Shortage of inspectors is negatively affecting its ability to fight illegal buildings, and it's making it difficult to visit all construction sites. It comes after 9 workers died in a collapse in Ormonde. This was earlier this week. The preliminary investigations showing that there were no building plans. The City of Johannesburg Development Planning Executive Director is Raboshakga, and he joins us now to tell us a little bit more about what is planned here to try and fix what is wrong. Mr. Raboshakga, good to have you on the program. Thanks for joining us. Let's start with how many building inspectors is the City of Johannesburg supposed to have, and how many are in its employ right now?
Thank you very much, Pauli. I think, first of all, thank you for having me. I think, the first point that I need to mention is that, the city takes the incident that occurred in Ormonde quite seriously. And any building, of course, that any collapse that occurs in the city is concerning because it places lives at risk. It's a public safety issue. So I think in terms of your question, we've got 59 building inspectors that are active on the ground. And we should ideally be having over 80 inspectors overseeing the entire city. Look, and I think the challenge that we are currently having at the moment, what that challenge poses for us, is that we are not able to actively monitor the areas we're supposed to be monitoring and inspecting, and we are rather more reactive because of the challenge that we are having on capacity.
Yeah.
So we wait for members of the community and the citizens in the city to then report the cases to us. Then only are we then able to respond to those issues. This is largely due to the fact that building inspectors are not just inspecting the buildings that are being put up. There are other responsibilities that building inspectors have, such as issuing the occupancy certificates, checking that buildings that have been built in line with approved building plans are compliant, they are fire compliant, and the banks can then issue the bonds on those properties, and people can safely move into those homes and the properties and the factories and work in those environment because it will be safe to do so.
That's a very important admission, but scary at the same time, because on the basis of a shortage of building inspectors, you then have people not going out to see what is happening around the city. What's the reason behind the shortage of inspectors?
Look, yeah, I think a very good question. This problem is not just limited to the City of Johannesburg. It doesn't justify it. I think all the other metros, Durban, for example, has got only 60 building inspectors. Cape Town has got the same challenge. It's largely because there are so many competing interests in the city that have to be addressed. You are aware of issues, investment that must go into the water infrastructure, into the road infrastructure. And there are other areas that need investment. So there are competing interests that we have to take into account as a city. So we are not necessarily able to fill all the positions because of the challenges around the, financing capabilities. So if we could, definitely we would fill all the positions. But because of these competing interests, we're not able to fill all the positions that we would like to, ideally. But I think an important point to mention, Paul, is that the responsibility does not just rest on the city to ensure that there is responsible development in line with the city's bylaws and national building regulations. It also rests with property owners and the citizens and developers, that they be aware that they need to essentially comply with the requirements of the bylaws and the national building regulations. It's not that the city that is responsible for enforcing and ensuring that there is compliance. So building inspectors, building owners, particularly that building owner in Ormonde, who has multiple properties throughout the city that they have developed, are well aware of the requirements of the national building regulations and the city's regulations and the requirements, because they started, some of the processes, but they just didn't complete them.
Yeah.
And if those processes been followed, the tragedy would have been avoided.
Mr. Raboshakga, I don't know if you'll agree with me here, but this is a contradiction in terms, because if the president of this country says he wants for South Africa to be and look like a construction site, you then can't have a shortage of building inspectors when so many structures are going to be going up, you want to make sure that things are done in accordance with the law. That aside, let's talk about the building plans, or should we say, in the case of this collapsed building, the non-existence of these building plans. Is this something that happens often, where people just pick a spot and start building without the city, without approaching the city to say, these are building plans, please can you approve, or perhaps throw them out and tell us why that is?
Well, it happens quite frequently. In fact, we receive a considerable amount of complaints from the citizens across the city. And what we have done now is we've introduced what we call penalty rates over and above the legal processes that we are implementing. So if a property owner decides to build illegally without approved building plans, what we do is we then charge penalty rate to encourage them to comply with the bylaws and the national building regulations. And those penalty rates are really 12 times your rates and taxes. And in most instances, we are finding that the penalty rates are actually are getting us to the results that we are wanting to achieve, which is compliance with the building regulations. It doesn't always happen. Of course, there are people that take advantage of the system, and I think we must put it out there as a city that you are only as good as the laws you operate in. If you are found to be constructing illegally, we have to issue notices, 2 notices, and then go to approach the courts, because we are not allowed as a city to then demolish without having obtaining a demolition order, and the process tends to take a little bit longer, and on the ground it looks like there is nothing happening, but in the background there is work that is currently happening, that the city is currently undertaking, and it is quite costly as well. So you can imagine the amount of illegal issues that we are dealing with as a city. In a single financial year, we in total issue over 1,000 notices across all properties that are transgressing, that we are aware of, that have been reported to us. So the problem is quite huge, but we of course are coming up with ways of dealing with them. Created.
Just very quickly, so I take it that this is now an official confirmation that indeed this warehouse was built without presenting building plans before the city.
Yes, probably we can confirm that. There are no, in fact, before the building plans can be submitted, there is a first step that they must also comply with, which is the submission of an approval of a site development plan, which then ensures that the rights that are going to be exercised have in fact been applied for and granted by the city, and that the use complies with the zoning of the property. So they must first submit the SDP, and then only can they submit the building plans going forward. But I think one important point to mention is that if you look at the building itself, it's very close to Eskom infrastructure. And in terms of the requirements and the zoning of the property, there is a servitude that is applicable, that you're not supposed to be building close to that Eskom infrastructure. So as a result, the buildings are most likely not even approvable. So we can't approve them in the current state.
Wow. Have you found the owner or the developer here? Because at some point, in fact, since last reporting on this story, we were told that the builder or the owner is still being searched for.
Yeah, I think to just amplify that point, when the team arrived on site, they were given the number of the main contractor, which they were able to engage for a few minutes before they also switched off their phone. We are now aware that the owner of the building has actually released a statement to their attorneys, and our group legal department is then reaching out to the lawyer, that we can start the discussions with the owner in terms of how we proceed with this matter.
Sure. Eric Raboshakga, thank you very much indeed for your time. He is from the City of Johannesburg's Development Planning Department. Very, very worrying developments indeed. All right, Gwena Moabelo is standing by with the latest in your sports next.